Delighted to say now we're joined by Drew Wylie of Monaghan and Ballybay. How are things, Drew? You might shift to one side there.
All right. How's things, man?
Not too bad
Oh,
at all.
Jesus,
Your other left.
You had a good weekend. You had a good weekend, Drew. I'd say you're still salty enough this morning. I'd say you look like a man that had a tough weekend celebrating.
No, I didn't go too mad now, but no, it was a great weekend. Hey, from Monaghan football, and we have a couple of good weekends to look forward to. I suppose even next weekend we have the All Ireland final for the minors, so the county's on a bit of a buzz there at the minute, so it's great.
This is as exciting of a time as there's ever been in Monaghan football. Realistically, All Ireland semi-finals aren't exactly too plentiful. You have one of them in 2 weeks' time, and it's the first time the minors win a final since 1939 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. All right. Yeah, I've seen bits of articles about that for the minors, but no, and then not even that. Even look back a couple of weeks ago, the hurlers had a good win as well. So, it's great. It's great for the county, as I say. There's flags. There's plenty of flags up there at the minute. And there's a great buzz. But I suppose when you beat your neighbours, Armagh, it makes it that wee bit sweeter too. So.
Yeah, back in 2018, that was the last time that Monaghan were in an All-Ireland semi-final. You played that day. You scored a point that day. What's the buzz like being a Monaghan man togging out at Croke Park for an All-Ireland semi-final?
It's hard to... I'm not going to lie, it's hard to put into words. But, they're the days they just strive for every... as a county footballer, they're the days you strive for and really want to perform in. Yes, 2018, it probably haunts me a bit, and I'm sure it haunts a few of the lads that are currently there, and you want to maybe put a few rounds right, but we come up short. We were a point there, lost by a point that day out, and hopefully, the next day against the Dubs, it's not going to be simple for the lads, but have no doubt they're gonna put something up to Dublin.
If I remember correctly, didn't Rory Beggan wind up for a late shot from about the 65 to try and hit an equaliser? Jeez, it was like it just went all the way to the wire that day.
Yeah, it was a game. Yeah, there was no doubt about it. I was actually talking to some of Ryan Porter last week actually, and we were just chatting about it. We had felt we had got a grip of the game halfway through the second half, and then Tyrone just bounced with a goal, and it just took the whole momentum out of it. But we grinded ourselves back into it, and I do mind Rory Beggan. He actually got a shot. Well, not sure it was a shot or what it was, but it ended up on top of Kieran Hughes, and maybe we felt we should have got something on the end of it, but can't be too critical of referees nowadays.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was in Croke Park. I'm sure you were there as well. Croke Park on Saturday, watching that penalty shootout. The game finished 14 apiece, and not everyone was loving what we saw during normal time. I'm sure it was really dramatic to watch as someone who with a vested interest through. But the penalty shootout, what was that like to watch? And I'd say you were relieved that Ryan wasn't taking part in it.
Yeah, I've actually seen Ryan take a few penalties over the years, and I'd stick him up there, no problem. But I'm not sure. Obviously, you have to give great credit to the 10 players, both sides that step up and take the penalty. You're in the spotlight. It's a carnival atmosphere in Croke Park. How do you set your mind to put the ball down and rattle the net? Not to do it once, but to do it twice. And then even for the likes of Gary Moan that missed his first penalty, I heard Vinny say, he's waiting around a long time to get the next penalty, and thankfully he stepped up and rattled it. But it's a hard way to lose a game. When you think about it, both teams went toe to toe, and at the end of the day, neither team really lost the thing. It was a penalty shootout that ultimately put Monaghan through.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I don't think, and Vinny said it after they won a penalty shootout. I don't think Monaghan won the game per se, but that's just that's just the way it is at the moment. I thought it was very interesting as well. Vinny said after he was asked, do Monaghan lads practice penalties, and he said no. And I'd say Kieran McGeeney's just scratching his head after Armagh losing 3 penalty shootouts in a row. But Vinny made a really good point, and you kind of alluded to it there. He said it can kind of be counterproductive to practice them because there is no way to prepare for as he described it, a sea of orange in the Davin stand, and it's grand, like practicing a few penalties and a few lads shouting at you, you know, that are in the squad or whatever. But there is probably nothing that could prepare you for that kind of that nerves or that nervous energy around it. And as well as that, you know, when you, as you mentioned, Gary Mohan there, missing a penalty, like to have to step up and take another one as well, nothing could really prepare you for that, could it?
No, that's exactly it. Like, you know, you go to the training field there, and like, how do you mentally prepare yourself for the atmosphere, the crowd? You just mentioned it there, like the crowd, like, you know, the sea orange that was behind that goals, like, you know, seen Manzi maybe waving at them and Jack McCarran waving at them, you know, like, and that's part of the game. Like, you know, it's great to see that, like, them players weren't shying away from that atmosphere, and they were probably relishing it, like, you know, really wanting, and they were fantastic penalties. Like, you know, you couldn't, any one of them, I suppose, the one that was saved all right, but any outside of the other 9, like, you know, they were bottom corner or top. Manzi, I think, hit both corners, like, you know. But I've no doubt, like, I'm sure them lads maybe going through training session and maybe set a ball down and say, Rory, standing goals there type thing, like. But I wouldn't imagine there was like time set aside for, right, lads, we're going to 10 lads are going to hit penalties here, you know. So I've no doubt them lads were practicing maybe behind the scenes or something, like, you know, pick a point in the nets away from the training field and you know, hitting a spot in the goals, like, you know.
Would you fancy stepping up yourself?
I'm not too sure. No, end off. Yes, no, I wouldn't have hit a penalty. But here, I still wouldn't. No.
I could just see, I said to someone before, I'd imagine, like, more defenders, I'd say Julian Dix straight down the middle, burst the ball out through the net.
I've seen Darren Hughes hit a few there over the years, and I think he just pointed the middle of the lace high straight down the middle. So he's no fancy Dan putting it into the corners.
I would have thought, though, that practicing them would be a sensible option at this stage. I know you can't replicate the environment, but then, like, why bother practicing freeze at training, right? Like that, like, it could happen. So, like, and this is only, look, obviously this is like a Tipperary Cup soccer semi-final many moons ago, but we had a penalty shootout, and it was just unusual to go up and take one, because, like, this wasn't just like a complete mess of a game. You were trying to win, and it was unusual, a situation I wasn't familiar with. I ended up mishitting it, but it went into the top corner, clipped the underside across. You'd swear it was intentional, unbelievable.
I'm amazed you even admitted that you said you mishit it. I presume you just take it as, you know, brilliant strike.
I mean, I was going for that general direction, but like I was like that as I hit it. And because I hadn't been in that situation before, I had no routine or anything like that. I had to say I would like to have practiced a few, if I'm honest. But Callum Comiskey couldn't but feel sorry for him, Drew. I mean, what a tough spot.
Yeah, you mentioned their practices, but I've no doubt them, like, the lads, like, you know, they talk about training, but on your nights off, like, I've no doubt them boys are taking a bag of balls and out practicing kicks or practicing free kicks, like, and as I say, I would say they're practicing penalties away from maybe the training field, putting the ball down and picking your spot in the net, like, you know, all top forwards do it, like, you know, they're out. I have no doubt Manzi's still practicing free kicks, still practicing penalties away from Monaghan training, and then possibly even in it. But it's really hard to replicate the scenario that the two lads, and I suppose the last couple of years, penalties have become a bigger thing in big matches. Like, you know, Armagh last year against Galway. Like, you know, it's a defining moment, you know, winning and losing, and that's just it.
Can I ask you, as a player, how would you feel losing an All-Ireland quarter-final on penalties?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's a way of losing a game. I'm not, as I say, I'll take the Monaghan win at the weekend, but I wouldn't be in favour of it. I don't really agree with it. Like, you know.
Would you feel a bit shortchanged almost? We've trained for X, Y, and Z, and we're out of the championship, but we haven't really lost, or I haven't, you know, my man hasn't beaten me to score a point to win the game. If you get, do you know what I mean? And plus, like the five lads, away,
yeah. Like I heard Vinny actually say afterwards, like, you know, neither Monaghan won the game nor Armagh lost the game. Like, and it's a fair statement. Like, you know, both teams ended the draw. You know, I know schedules are fairly tight at the minute and trying to get games in. Like, but I still feel another like it's an All-Ireland quarter-final, like you're down to the last 8. I think another day out would probably settle all, like, you know, but it's as I say, the schedule's so tight at the minute, it's probably hard to get games in, you know.
As a player, and I know that scores were not plentiful the other night, would you be more in favour of, you know, next score wins, like a golden score kind of job, or what would you think of that? Or could we be waiting half an hour for a score and would everyone just plant behind the ball? Or
we're not playing out in the backyard here now. You know, but no,
fly keepers.
The fly keeper, like, you know, we're going to make rules up here as we go along. But no, I think another day, as I said, I think it's fair on both teams. You'd love another day out for both teams to go at it again. Like, you know, as I say, I know you're saying scores weren't plentiful, but it was an intense game. Like, you know, it was entertaining. Well, I felt it was entertaining. Obviously, in Monaghan, you know, Monaghan probably felt, from watching it, I felt a lot of control of the game for the last 20 minutes, and probably didn't just, if they had got that 2 points up on Armagh, probably could have held it out, but you know, they didn't.
Do you know, back in 2018, we'll say, when you were in the Super 8 and you're playing 3 matches in 4 weekends, or how much does that take out of the body, and how much of an impact would it have made from the 4 teams that didn't have that week off while the group winners did heading into last weekend? Yeah,
I suppose it works. Like, you know, you can look at it from Armagh's side of thing, and you can like they obviously had a week's rest and really prepare the body for it. And I think the 3 out of the teams that were rested did get through. Like, but momentum held with Monaghan. Like, but you know, when you're in that. When Monaghan got a good win there against Kildare, probably scraped it right at the end. Like, but you know that coming away from Tullamore, I've no doubt the lads were buzzing to get back to training on Tuesday night. Like, and once they heard Armagh, like, they probably said, right, we're going to have a crack at this. And at the end of the day, like, the reward was to get into an All-Ireland semi-final. Like, it can be testing on the body. You know, I've seen a lot of lads pulling up there against Monaghan, or again in the Monaghan Armagh game, like, you know, but that was both sides. I actually seen Armagh players cramping and as many Monaghan players cramping. So we'll see. You're looking. I would say it would favour Monaghan going into the weekend. Like, you know, they had a bit of momentum going into Armagh. So.
What about Conor McManus though? He truly is the Monaghan goat at this stage.
Yeah, he's something else. You know, at the free kick, I was there, right, where's Manzi? I was just like, you know, we were all waiting. I've seen him over the years. I've seen him too many times looking for the ball, or like in them clutch moments, and he's the man that can pull it out, like, you know.
Yeah, do you know what I thought, actually, Drew, when I was watching it? I was like, this is like a final set piece in the game, and because there was a little bit of a delay, Monaghan were checking with the referee, do we need to take a pot shot here from the 65 with maybe Rory Beggan, or can we try and work something? So they went out to the sideline. One of the players went out to the sideline, checked with Vinnie Corey. He was like, okay, well, I presume that's what was said. Okay, work the ball in. And I was like, you know, the end of a basketball game, Chicago Bulls, they're trying to make sure they get it to Michael Jordan, or, you know, the different teams that LeBron was playing with. And you just knew as soon as he got the ball and you saw him cut across his man and end up with Grugan on him, you just knew it was going to be a free. And I'd say the only people with doubts in the stadium were people who weren't Conor McManus. You just felt he was going to pop it.
That was it. Like, you know, that he's been involved in, like, he's a big game player. Like, and he is one of the greatest Monaghan players for us. Like of his time, like, even Monaghan of all time. Like, you know, but you could see Shane Kerry, yes, he was making a run. I could see a lot of chats going on between him and Vinny, trying to see what was going on. Like, but, you know, we was watching it and just, I was there, right, let's get Manzi on it and see what we can make of it here. But thankfully, he never shies away from the big moment, and he went after it. And, you know, once the free was given, it was every year I was 100% sure we'd be going to penalties.
Yeah, and I suppose then, like, I'm looking at the black card that Monaghan got, and it was for Sean Jones. Like, I don't think he intentionally tripped the Armagh player. And then also later on, Kieran Mackin definitely body collided with a Monaghan player and he got away with it. So, but coming back to like the impact of the black card that Sean Jones got and went into extra time, like 7 minutes of the first period of extra time. Armagh set off Monaghan and allowed Monaghan to just hold the ball. They didn't try and ram home that advantage, Drew.
Yeah, I have to say at first, I thought Sean Jones's was a black card. Just where I was sitting and the angle I looked at, it looked like he flicked the arm or his hand. Like, but there was a crossover. There was a crossover of heels or something, and that was it. There was nothing in it. And then you look at obviously the Armagh, incident, and to get away with it. And that's probably the bit of frustration that maybe builds up with players, the inconsistency of maybe calls throughout a game. Like, but they're out of. Things like that are out of a player's control, and you can only deal with what's in front of you. But you're right in saying like Monaghan, for the first 7 minutes of that extra time, like they done really well. Like Armagh got the first score, but they just stuck with it, and Monaghan probably held the ball and kept possession. And you're right in saying Armagh sat back, but maybe that's just the way they're used to playing all year. And if a man down, you should maybe be trying to make a cut at it, especially in that extra time. But it's easy for us to say, you have 10 minutes where you could win or lose a game, and maybe with Manzi, with the likes of Conor McManus inside and Conor McCarthy floating about, like you can't give these lads space, like, or maybe they run away with it. But that's maybe just the way Armagh have set up all year.
Just Drew, on Conor McManus for a second. You obviously marked him several times, I'm sure, with when Ballybay have played Clontarf and even with the county as well. When you're like, he was just so relaxed even for that final free. Just total confidence in himself. What's it like to be a defender at the other end of the field, knowing that if we get free anywhere inside the 45, I probably don't even need to look at the scoreboard half the time. I can just focus on my own job. I'd imagine that's what it's like.
Yeah, and that just doesn't come by accident either. Like, Conor McManus has been, right from a young age, it's been well documented. He's always practice frees, like, and that just, as I say, you have to put the work in, and he has put the work in over the years to get that. But as a player at the opposite end of the field, having that reliance on a top forward that can keep you in the game, and it's a great asset to Monaghan football.
Can I just ask you as well, Drew? Like I mentioned just before we brought you on, I was just saying, like, there's literally no end to Monaghan. There's literally no end. Like this year, there's no point saying any different. There were probably other names that were touted for the job probably before Vinny got it. It was seen by many people that with the likes of yourself stepping away and the age profile, the likes of Conor and Carl O'Connell and a few more, and the transition of maybe players into retirement, and that it was going to be maybe a difficult couple of years. They were going to maybe struggle to retain Division 1 status. They've retained Division 1 status. They've got to an All-Ireland semi-final. Yeah. Like, what is it that you're just able to go that deep into the reserves and always find something? Like, you've been in amongst the camp for so long. Yeah. Like, what is it?
I would, as I say, there's no secret potion or anything. Like, it's just it's probably just the mindset of the players. Like, it's a strong group there. Like, and nobody ever wants to let each other down. Like, even when I stepped away myself, like, I'd done so many years with Monaghan football, like, but part of me was feeling that I was not letting players down, like, but obviously I had to think of myself too, like, but there's that what would you say, bond with the players. Like, nobody, like, you look at Carl O'Connell there, like, he's probably been Monaghan's most consistent player all year, like, and if he has another blinder in the All-Ireland semi-final, like, he's probably up for an All-Star, as I say, it's really hard to put a finger on it, but there's just that never say die attitude. And like, of all the years I was involved, I think we were tipped nearly every year to be relegated out of Division 1, like, but we just, and that's outside noise. We wouldn't be, there's a lot of players, like, we wouldn't get caught up in the media maybe saying favouring different teams or whatnot, and that does play a factor, and maybe it is talked about, like, I know it has been talked about when I was there myself, you know, Monaghan's they're talking about us being relegated, like, you know, and we won't accept that, you know, we're just not happy to sit back and let somebody else walk over us, like, and that has been the mantra all, as I say, in my time, and I've no different it is there now, like, you know, Kildare had Monaghan on the ropes, but yet we still came back and bounced and got the winning score, like, you know, and there's just that, as I say, it's just that never say die attitude, like, you know, there's not one man you couldn't see in that Monaghan team or panel that wouldn't give their arm and a leg for Monaghan football, like, you know, and that's just the culture that's in that squad, but not even the squad, probably even within the county, like, you know, as I say, you know, you look at the Monaghan minors there, like, you know, it's great that they're seeing what's going on, like, you know, in their senior setup as well, like, you know.
Hey, come here. I know I spoke to you earlier on the air. You found it kind of interesting enough, been able to talk honestly as a player outside of the box, as opposed to the stuff you used to say to us when you were a player.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. I suppose I haven't done that many articles or media, but no. Listen, when you're not, like, say, different articles of you when you're a player, like, you know, you could just copy and paste a lot of stuff that's been said, like, you know. If you look at any of the winning managers look at their articles or interviews, there are a lot of them's all overlapping, like, yes, work to do, we've a lot to learn, back to training Tuesday night, get ready for a tough semi-final and see where it goes, you know.
Hey, I was going to ask you about Conor McCarthy. How big of a difference is it playing as a forward or a wing forward or corner forward that he would often play as over the years to moving to wing back? Because we were chatting about it, and I was kind of saying, well, I mean, teams move forward and back as one big unit of 15 in a way at times. So he's just probably a little bit more withdrawn and coming onto the ball. Like, how big of an adjustment would it be for Conor?
Yeah, like, I've not only ever, like, you know, I've played with Conor and against Conor with club level, like, you know, and he's always been, not always, like, but he's been he's been a centre forward or inside man, like, you know, and he's a dangerous man to mark, you know, he's so good, so skillful and everything, like, but he's probably, you know, this year he really has thrived at wing back, like, you know, and he, as I say, he's another man that's been so consistent with Monaghan football all year. Like, you know, another, as I say, he is up there probably all-star contender as well. Like, you know, he's been exceptional for Monaghan, and but it's probably the player himself. Like, you know, he probably had to adjust his mindset and where his positioning around the pitch. Like, you know, rather than maybe making 3 or 4 runs to look for a ball, he's maybe coming around onto a breaking ball and being able to kick it inside, like, you know, so that knowledge even of him playing out the field and the knowledge for himself of and in playing from inside, like, he probably knows the runs of players and being able to play the ball in, you know, so it probably has been a right adjustment for himself, but he's been exceptional for Monaghan there in the last couple of games, like, you know, what did he get the last, say, 3 points or something?
Detox 101 asks, could you ask Drew, what's the best football game you ever played in or ever saw? Interested to see what era those games were.
Well, I suppose the game for me that the best game I played was Kerry in 2018 in Clonus. It was just something else. I had, you know, the Super 8s. It was I think Kerry had lost their first game and we had won our first game, so it was a do or die game for Kerry. It was the day Clifford broke our hearts and got a goal at the end. But, you know, the physicality, the intensity of that game was just something else. Like, and it's a game, you know, you still had the likes of Kieran Donaghy playing, Darren O'Sullivan, Sean O'Shea, David Clifford. You know, it was just unbelievable. I'm sure a few of you have experienced championship matches in Clonus. Like, and the atmosphere was just phenomenal. Like, you know, it's probably a game that sticks with me.
It shook that day, didn't it? Like, Clonus was actually nearly shaking that day.
I'm telling you, the hairs are standing on my arm here, even just thinking of it, you know. And I think Carl O'Connell, we got a breakaway score in the second half. I think Carl O'Connell got it, maybe passed into Manzi and Cara Conlon come off the run and kicked it over the bar. But I thought the ground was shaking. How there was that big of a roar. Like, it was just, as I say. But they're the games, like, you know, you can talk about and you remember as a player. You look back and say, yeah, I was part of that. And, you know, that ultimately as a player, like, you know, as playing at the top level and competing against some of the best players in the country.
And how wise were you to David Clifford? Like, everyone had known what he'd done at minor level before that, but like, how well worn did you feel you were with him that day? And look at what he's got on to do.
It's unbelievable. What, you know, he's an unbelievable player there at the minute. Like, you know, his skill level and bounce the ball. Like, you know, we were aware of him and knew how dangerous he would be. Like, you know, and I think I can't write back what he scored that day, but I thought we had him well enough wrapped up. But as I say, the bounce of the ball come right from at the end, and I honestly don't know how he managed to get the ball in by Darren Hughes that day. It just seemed to scrape in by the post or across him. But you know, we were well aware of what damage but where he has come from then, like, you know, it's just phenomenal, like, you know.
Were you surprised to see the manner of which Kerry disposed of Tyrone there on Saturday, even with Clifford hitting 6 or 7 wides? Like, he's unbelievable, but that wasn't his day.
No, it wasn't his day. You know, there was a lot of people talking about David Clifford, like, but I would have said, was it Jim O'Connor midfield, and even the corner back as well at number 2, is it?
Graham O'Sullivan, was it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable, the skill level. That you know, it didn't come as a surprise, like, because it really felt if Kerry get all together here and they'll blow Tyrone away, like, you know, and they ultimately did do that, like, you know. Don't even think Tyrone. What was it? They were 10 or 15 minutes into the second half before they got a score, like, you know.
Yeah, I think it was 25 minutes all told without a score, which you just wouldn't have predicted, you know, beforehand.
Like, you have to look at even Kerry's bench that came off Kerry's bench, that the 5 players that took on, like, you know, they really. But that's a team looking to win another All Ireland, and you have players there really competing for places, you know. But here it can be easy too when you're 7 or 8 points up. You know, the spaces will open up in Croke Park, and it can be that wee bit easier to get scores or whatnot, you know.
Who do you see as the favourite for the All Ireland at the moment, Drew? Take your Farney colours off for a second now.
You'd probably say Kerry at the minute, but you know, yeah, say Kerry. But then you've seen a lot of Kerry Dublin finals over the years, and how if it is to come to that, like, but you know, there's a lot of football. There's 2 games we played yet, and I wouldn't rule anything out. What happens?
It sounds like you boys are going to build up a bit of a siege mentality anyway. I can see it in you already.
Yeah, I'm trying not to speak as a player here, do you know? But no, you know, like, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, Monaghan are going to have to be a lot better the next day out against Dublin. Like, you look at that Dublin team, and the spine of the team have like, you look at Davy Bourne, John Small, McCarthy, Fenton, Conor Callan, Paul Mannion. Like, you know, there's 10 or 12 players there that have been around so long, like, you know. And
yeah, I was just going to say there, as you mentioned, the long spells where Tyrone didn't score in the game. Like, from the 21st minute to the 57th minute, Tyrone didn't score from play. They got a couple of frees during that period. And I couldn't believe that they took off Rory Canavan, one of the few forwards that was actually scoring from play. And fair enough, things were going wrong. Maybe they wanted a system change or whatever. But Drew, taking off someone who's actually scoring, I just found that a bit unusual.
Yeah, funny. I thought it was strange myself when I seen him going off. But you know, we're not standing on the sideline. We're not maybe seeing, you know, what they're trying to do, or maybe something they've worked on to make the change. Like, but Rory and Dara Canavan, like, you know, the skill level of them 2 players, like, you know, there's something. It's probably fearful for a few full back lines in years to come, like, you know. And but as I say, that's the manager's decision at the end of the day, and you just have to stand by it, you know.
Quick question for you there, Drew. Detox 101 says, if Monaghan got Dublin and Clones, does he think they would beat them?
I think we've beat them. We've got enough record there in Clones with them, but I don't think we've beat them in championship yet. We've beat them in a couple of league matches, all right. But here, don't rule anything out. Like, but as I say, Monaghan have a bit of improvement to do. But do you know that the game plan will be probably completely different than the Armagh game. Like, you know, the way the opposition, the way Armagh set up, and the way Dublin set up. You know, I've no doubt Monaghan will be able to adapt themselves to be able to get something out of it. Like, you know.
I saw Pat Nolan tweeting it's be the first meeting of Dublin and Monaghan in an All-Ireland semi-final since 1922, which was on the exact same day. So it's going to be, what's 100 plus years? And that semi-final in the 1922 semi-final was played July 15, 1923, because there was a whole load of messing back in those days, War of Independence, so on and so forth. So it'll actually be 100 years to the day since their last All-Ireland semi-final.
Who came out the right side of that? Or?
Dublin.
You're going to rewrite history, Drew. Hopefully,
we'll rewrite history. Hey, you know, like from my own experience, like over the years, like we never feared Dublin. Like, you know, regardless, I know people will probably laugh, like, you know, but come league football, we actually every time we played Dublin in a league match, I felt we could beat them, like, you know. And it was just trying to bring that then into championship. And I think here that was it 2014 or 15 to beat us with maybe 14 points in Croke Park in an All-Ireland quarter final. But we were only after the same probably scenario. We were after coming off after beating Kildare, and then 6 days later we were playing the Dubs, like, and they just railroaded us. It was 14 points, like. But as I say, Monaghan have a couple of weeks, 2 weeks now to prepare themselves, and I've no doubt Vinny has something up his sleeve to curb the Dublin attack.
Drew, can I ask you about Derry? Because, like, you know, you're part of the Monaghan setup last year when they beat you in the Ulster semi-final. You've seen the rise of them the last couple of years, obviously under Rory Gallagher before Kieran Meena now has taken over after Gallagher stepped away. Like, could you talk to me about the dramatic change in them in the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, we actually played. I remember we played Derry in a challenge match. It was the first year that Rory Gallagher had taken over, and you know, from looking back from that challenge match to now, you could see what he was trying to do, like, you know, and the difference then players have made from that. As I say, I'm thinking back, it was 2020 maybe or 2021 whenever Rory first took over, like, but it's about running the game. It's about a real running game, being defensive, and you know, the strides they've taken. But also individually, there's a lot of players there have really excelled in the last couple of years. Like, you know, you look at Conor Glass, Shane McGuigan, Brendan Rodgers. You know, they're top drawer players. Like, but every team has it, and that's if you want to be successful, there has to be a few individuals that are exceeding their limits. You know.
And I have to say, like, when I was watching Cork's performance, they struggled once they got up to the top end of the pitch. They weren't really able to break Derry down. And maybe, and I hate saying this, but maybe Cork didn't sit deep enough then when they were, you know, being attacked at the other end. But Cork did a lot right, because for long spells, Brendan Rodgers wasn't in the game. Shane McGuigan never scored from play. Conor Glass, I know they highlighted in the Sunday game some of the things he did, but it's not like he totally dominated the game. Niall Loughlin, you know, they did an awful lot right, Cork. It's just maybe they don't have the experience at this stage of the season.
Yeah, funny. I didn't get to see the second half of that game. I seen most of the first half, and I thought Cork were doing a lot right, like, you know, but they probably they broke at pace, but it was just maybe their turnovers. They give the ball away, cough the ball up a couple of times very easy, like, and against Derry, you really can't do that. Like, possession is crucial. Like, but I fancied Derry to beat them. I thought Cork would give them a bit of a game, and they did do. But ultimately, like, you know, where Cork, you know, they've turned the season around there in the last 2 games, like, where they're going to be experienced enough to be able to come up to Croke Park, and you know, I've no doubt they weren't just coming up to take part in the All-Ireland quarter final, like, but it was probably further than what maybe they expected they were going to get, like, you know.
Do you think Derry will give Kerry a right rattle?
I think they will. You remember a couple of years, was it last, was it 2021 where Tyrone bet Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final, was it? Everyone was talking about, in the build-up to it, everyone was talking about David Clifford and how good he can be, and he ended up picking up an injury and going off before full time. Was it full time or extra time he had to go off?
Time, yeah. He didn't come back.
So something like that could happen, and you're out your star player, and is there other players there ready to step up? I'm sure there is, but as I say, there's a lot on the line. People have no doubt over the next 10 days, people are all going to be talking about a Dublin Kerry final, and as a player, no matter how much you see that as a distraction, it's hard not to let part of it in. Like, you're going to training, you're 3 nights a week, and you have a manager telling you that don't get caught up in that media, or don't get caught up in that Dublin Kerry bullshit, or sorry, but
no, you're all right.
And yes, like the players are experienced enough not to get involved in it, but some part of it might creep in, and maybe there could be a slight kink in the armour there for Kerry or for Derry to attack, and I wouldn't rule anything out. Like, as I say, Brendan Rodgers, as I say, there's a lot of good players. Conor Doherty in that Derry team, like, the Kerry's going to have to look about too, and likewise for Derry on Kerry, like,
Interesting as well. Clifford went to town in the minor final a couple of years ago. I think he was marking Conor McCluskey, and he's probably waited a few years for revenge, and he'll get a shot at revenge the next day, which will definitely be really interesting.
I was at that game too, and I just remember Clifford, and it was just unbelievable. I remember remarking the skill level and whatnot. But yeah, you're right in saying Conor Doherty, but he's a real good attacking player as well, and even Ethan Doherty as well. Like, the two strong players there in the Derry squad. Like,
And speaking of attacking defenders, Rory Maguire came up and got a great goal for Cork yesterday, and it looks like he's wearing a micro hurling glove there.
It definitely is. Yeah, it definitely is. I love the fact that he kissed the crowd against Derry of all teams. 30 years on from Bradley doing something similar.
Club hurling match maybe that evening or something, you wouldn't know. People might laugh at that, and you'll see, but that's part of the game. It's great to see it. Like, I know if I seen me corner forward fucking blowing kisses to a crowd, I'd be asking myself questions here. What's going on?
I'd say you'd be trying to put him into the crowd.
You'd be biting your lip, but he's probably, he's a young lad, he's probably up to Croke Park and mad to give it a rattle, like, and enjoying the buzz,
I remember, was it Tommy Bowe wore a hurling glove playing for the Lions? I think he'd broken his hand, and then 3 weeks later he was back playing and he had the hurling glove on. So it can only be a hand injury is the reason that he's wearing that.
It must have been so. I remember Tommy Bowe, actually, it was out in Australia, wasn't it? And he wore a hurling glove, like, so it must have been a hand injury of some description, but I'm sure if there was a bone broke, there was no way he wasn't missing an All-Ireland quarter-final in Croke Park, like, you'd be doing if he was anything like myself, I'd be doing whatever you can to play.
Yeah, and so where do you think Derry could hurt Kerry the most? And like, people always say, now that David Moran is gone, midfield is a big area, and obviously we know how strong Derry are there. But Drew, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was actually looking forward to the Dublin or the Kerry Tyrone game, because as in a midfield battle, I seen Tyrone's midfielders, Kilpatrick and Kennedy, like, they're so athletic and so big, strong, big players, like, but and there was probably question marks over the Kerry midfield, over the not just, there was parts that they were looking, maybe I heard rumours they were talking about trying to get David Moran back and different bits and pieces, but it just, as I say, Kerry just railroaded that, and just Kilpatrick, I seen a couple of times he looked like he was chasing back, and it was Kerry had the upper hand on that midfield, like, but where can Derry get at them? Derry are going to show, you've seen them, they're well documented as a defensive team, like, they're probably going to frustrate the life of Kerry, and they probably won't get the same room they did do, which Tyrone done early on, like, look at any of Kerry's early shots or scores, were from distance, you know, and Tyrone frustrated Kerry enough, but as I say, as the game opened up, Kerry just started the quick hand passing and started to move themselves through it. So, but it's how disciplined can Derry be, and they are a disciplined team to be able to. I think they will frustrate Kerry but can they do it for 70 minutes?
Have you ever seen Tyrone as off colour in terms of like? You'd normally think they'd be looking to get under Kerry's skin. They weren't able to seem to do it. And the amount of times that they went running up the field, isolated, and just turning the ball over, like you're looking on from the crowd 2 or 3 seconds out going, they're about to turn the ball over here because we've a lad running into traffic and he's got no support. It just seemed very un-Tyrone-like.
It did seem very un-Tyrone-like, but, you know, say from, you look back at the Tyrone, when Tyrone played Kerry in 2021, but I think Kerry probably come with a different mindset. How some of the movement of the players, and it wasn't just the inside line, like, you know, all over the pitch. They were just relentless running. How it was Tom O'Sullivan coming forward. It was Paul Murphy making hard runs, like, you know, and they were defenders, like. And then you look forward and you see Paddy Clifford, you see Myler hanging out of Paddy Clifford, but. You know, the easy option to do for Clifford would be just, I'm not making these runs, like. But he never stopped the whole game, and that's probably, as I say, each of them players probably had a few questions to answer against Tyrone, and they said, right, well, it's not happening today, and but as I say, I just felt Kerry, their pace all over the pitch. As I said, it wasn't the movement inside; it was just all over. There was always options for a Kerry man to run into space. I was watching even Paul Geaney, like, you know, he's probably in the older end of the stick, like, but he some of his movement inside was as I say, McNamee was trying to get close to him, like, but I'm sure as a defender, like, you know, when you have a forward moving constantly, like, you know, it's just so maddening, like, you know, and you don't get a break, like, you know, and that's where the weakness, that's where maybe that couple of seconds or that split second where you can get a score off, you know.
And Drew, Kerry's mindset seems to have changed in the sense that, yeah, we know they love like flow and kick passing and scoring and that kind of thing. They seem to be literally getting as much enjoyment out of a turnover as a score these days. And even the jaw on after a turnover, like that was, it's a complete change of mindset, isn't it?
Well, you know, probably would Paddy Tally have something to say about that? You know, a Tyrone man. You know, you look over the years, any of the Tyrone teams, or even Armagh, even Monaghan there, and you know, when you get a big turnover in defence, hey, and like how lifting that, like, you know these turnovers where you get three defenders round a forward and he's on the ground and he can go nowhere and he's blue for over carrying, and you know, referees would be mad to blow that free, and you know, it can lift, like, you know, when a crowd can really get behind that, it can be really uplifting for a team. You know, it's as good as a score, like, and then you go up the field and if you get a quick attack and get a score, like, you know, it can be demoralising for a forward that's maybe after giving that ball away, and but you're right. I would say maybe Paddy Tally has something to do with the Kerry defenders and celebrating the small wins around the pitch.
It was one of those weekends where we got a couple of brilliant goals that involved dummy solos, and you talk about, you know, things being maddening as a defender, Drew. Conor Doherty doing that to a defender, then slotting in the corner, and Sean O'Shea doing a little dummy solo, which was class. Defenders on the ground, and he's slotting it into the back of the net. I mean, what a skill it is. How infuriating if you're the defender on the ground.
Oh, it's just, sending some. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I don't think it was ever dummied in my life, but but no, you're right. Like, you know, but I actually seen it a couple of weeks back, or maybe about Kerry's goals and how they can create space, or that give them that split second by using that bounce. And but as a skill, you know, that's a serious skill to have as well as a forward. Like, you know, to have that composure. You know, things get. I know myself. Like, I've seen myself in club football there, and I get inside the square, and I'm just like, right, stick the boot through it here and hope it hits the net. You know, but as you said there, rightly so, there was a couple of great goals there at the weekend where players were so composed on the ball and able to take the dummy solo or take the bounce, like, you know, and kick the goal, like. But even then, was it Dara Canavan his point?
Yeah.
Well, fuck, geez.
Rory Canavan.
You know, and you know, but that's, as I say, to have that, you know, and that's just pure natural skill, like, you know, and that's just, it's either in you or it's not, like, you know, and you know, but it's something that it's, when you have it in the locker, why not use it?
I'd say, Drew, to be fair, if you've never been caught with a dummy in your life, it was probably the time to go out before it did happen.
I'd be telling a lie there if I said it wasn't. I've been caught with plenty of dummies.
Well, I thought it was a bit tongue-in-cheek now, to be honest with you.
You believe me saying that, but no, and I don't even think I'd be able to give a dummy, to be honest with you.
And Drew, a question I wanted to ask you as well is, we often ask current players about who's the toughest man to mark and all this, and actually Sean Finn wouldn't even give us an answer not so long ago, because I think he doesn't want to give an edge to anyone who's up against Limerick. But now that you're retired from intercounty level, who's the toughest man to mark in opposition?
Drew, I asked you this before and you gave me 20 names, so you're going to have to keep it to 3.
No,
because you got the sticky wicket a lot of times. There's no point in saying any different.
Well, I did and I didn't, like, you know, but like, as I say, when the Monaghan team I was playing in, like, you know, you had so many, like, we'd real good defenders throughout the years, and there was one of us that had to take one of the marquee men. But over the years, like, I would have marked, like, Vinnie Curry was involved with this squad with me, like, you know, and even Colin Walsh and Kieran Duffy and even my brother Ryan, like, you know, there was 4 of us there, like, and we could have been named with any one of the players, like, but I get asked this question, like, you know, a few times, who's the toughest player, and it really is hard to, you know, I probably look back and at a tough day in an Ulster semi-final against Down. I think it's Conair Harrison, you call him, like,
yeah.
He giving me, you know, he probably scored, I don't know what he scored, maybe 3 or 4 points on me, like, but as a defender, you know, you don't like that, you know, it doesn't sit well with you. And obviously I've marked Michael Murphy. You know, it's just really hard to, you know, Murphy's an exceptional player. I remember marking him in a league match, like, and just, you know, he's an animal, like, you know, a real strong player, and really, really competitive, like, you know, for his team, and no different than myself, like, you know, we were all out to win, and but yeah, haven't really give you a name, have I?
I'm going to take Conair Harrison. I'm going to
listen, I'm going to say that. Yeah, you know, is that day took its own turn of events too. We were going to that All Ireland, or it was an Ulster semi-final, and we actually crashed the car. Ryan was driving. We crashed the car going to the game, so we did.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so we were going to the bus, going down to Monaghan, like, and just we slid into the ditch on the grass verge, and then, like, you know, just it was strange how it happened, but anyway, that's what happens. And then we went on and played the match. Actually, Owen Lennon, he was the selector at the time. He pulled up behind us and grabbed the bags, fucking threw the bags in his car, and away we went, like, you know. But
did you just leave the car there?
No, we rang our father, Ryan. Well, we say I was sitting in the front, I was sitting down, the car was sitting sideways, I was sitting against the door, like, and yeah, you know, so there was myself, Ryan, Thomas Kerr, and Desi Ward. Yeah, the 4 of us were in the car, and you know, I'm not, and I'm in no way using that as an excuse.
Jesus, no, Drew. Now, in fairness, some people would throw out fairly soft excuses. That's not the worst excuse in the world now.
But no, thankfully, none of us were hurt. The car took a wee bit of a hit, all right. But we rang my father, and he come then, and I think it actually just, not only that, it was the main road heading. We were playing in Armagh, and a lot of the traffic was probably heading by where the car was crashed, like, and my father and older brother were there trying to pull the car out, like, and it was by a local farmer next door, and then the guards were coming saying stop, and I think it was a mess. But anyway, that's it.
You weren't hurt or anything like that. It just
No, we weren't hurt. No. As I say, it was just we sort of slid into a grass verge, and then that was that.
What was your head like after that, Drew? If you don't mind me asking, are you thinking of, geez, I'm after having a lucky escape there? Are you finding it hard to concentrate on the game even after that?
No, not really. I know. Do we? As I said, there wasn't anything. We weren't going at no high speed or anything. We just slid into the grass verge, and went down into like a water drain or whatever, and we were just sitting sideways in the hedge, So, but it obviously for Ryan, he was driving it, and then for him to go and try play a match, it was, yourself, it's just not simple. But as I say, I wouldn't we went into the down to the hotel, and just going on as if nothing had happened, But and I say that, I don't say that lightly, as in just going on, but that probably sums up. I'm not just taking. That's probably the Monaghan way. I have no doubt there's a lot of players in the Monaghan squad just get up and go on with it, And but it was after losing the game and then to come back to a crash car, it wasn't simple.
Well, Drew, look, you've been brilliant with your time. Really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no bother, man. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Drew.